Hello and welcome to episode 4 of Natasha Explains It All. Today is MLK Day, and in honor of this day, and to build off of the last 3 episodes that spent a lot of time talking about voting and the right to vote, I wanted to give a suggestion of a way to help get out the vote to promote engagement in US democracy. Just one suggestion. And this is one that I have personal experience with because I volunteer with this organization. It's called Postcards to Voters, and I will put a link in the show notes. And Postcards to Voters got started after the 2016 election as a way to boost voter engagement among Democratic voters. Like we talked about in a prior episode, voter turnout in the United States tends to be really, really low, even for presidential elections, but much lower for, state and local elections. And so there's lots of research out there about how to boost voter turnout. And Postcards to Voters engages with one of those ways. And how do they do that? Like the name implies, volunteers, including myself, we handwrite postcards to registered Democratic voters, encouraging them to get out to vote. And generally, it is for a specific campaign. It could be a local campaign, it could be like a county seat, it could be a state election, or it could be a federal election. It just depends. The Postcards to Voters team does all of the all of the research and effort to figure out which campaigns are within the margin of error where an effective postcarding campaign targeted at registered Democrats could boost turnout enough to sway the election. And our job as volunteers is to write the postcards. And Postcards to Voters makes it very easy because they give you the script. They tell you exactly what you need to write. Like basically for every campaign, there will be 3 statements that you need to write on every postcard. And if it's for a particular candidate, it'll normally be some tagline that includes the candidate's name. There'll be another sentence that tells you like when the election is. And then a third one that will be something, that's about like the campaign itself, the priorities of the candidate or something like that. And then there'll be lots of optional messaging that you can add as well, right? Like what are some of the priorities of the candidate, or something about the candidate's background, or the candidate's website, things like that. And sometimes the campaign is specific to getting out the vote in the form of encouraging people to register to vote by mail. So for example, in Florida, you can register to vote by mail and you don't need to provide an excuse for it, but you have to renew it every 2 years. It used to be every 4 years, now it's 2 years. Again, another voter suppression tactic. So Postcards to Voters has done lots of campaigns to send postcards to registered Democrats in Florida to encourage them to sign up for vote by mail, because the research bears out that if people receive their ballot in the mail, they are more likely to vote, which makes total sense. And the easier you make it, right, the more likely people are to engage. So Postcards to Voters has been doing this for several years now, again, to boost voter turnout among registered Democrats. And so their messages already to a friendly audience and just getting more of them to show up to vote. And the scripts are already provided for you per campaign, and then when you sign up, you can sign up to get addresses by text message, by email, or through Slack. I think you can use Facebook as well. And then you select how many addresses, like how many voters, you want to write to, as few as 4 and as much as 50 in a batch. And then you'll get that information. And then you've got 3 days to write your postcards and mail them out. Now, as a volunteer, You do need to buy your own postcards and your own postage, right? Postcard stamps, and then whatever pens or markers that you want to use for your postcards. So there is a financial investment as a volunteer to do this form of voter outreach. Um, so I want to be transparent about that. But among the reasons that I like doing it is that you can just do it at any time. You can do it by yourself. You could do it with friends. You could do it with a friend over Zoom, or just yeah, just by yourself whenever you have time. Text Abby or go on Slack and ask for find out what campaigns they're working on. Then you can pick whatever campaign you want, because oftentimes they're working on multiple campaigns at a time. Then you say how many addresses you want, and then you work on those. And I like it because it's like a little bit of an art project. I'm not an artsy person at all, but it's fun to like get out markers and colored pencils and things and gel pens, and try to make this look fun and engaging for someone who's sorting through their mail and is mostly looking at bills or ads, and certainly political ads and flyers. Most people, I think, like automatically trash those because they just like these glossy pamphlets that just seem all exaggerated. But this is a handwritten note, from a volunteer, likely from another state, who's helping you be informed that A, there is an election, B, about a specific candidate, and then C, often information about like, you can vote early for this, or it's only going to be on this particular day. And it's been shown to be very effective, and they've been very selective about what campaigns they work on, and they don't win every campaign that they support. But I think that would be an unrealistic expectation. And if they won every election that we write postcards for, then that would perhaps mean that they're actually not elections that the postcards help sway. You know what I mean? Like the margin of likelihood of the Democratic candidate winning was probably already big enough. They really focus on races where they tried to focus on races where turnout is really the decisive factor. And so, if we can encourage more Democratic voters to make voting a habit, then that can help win elections. And maybe not this round, but maybe the next time. And so, I feel like it's a really low barrier way to engage in an effective get out the vote effort. And again, you can build it into whatever time you have. And I think that, as I mentioned in a prior episode, I don't want to encourage despair. I want to encourage engagement. And this is a way to engage that I think is really low barrier. And I think is fun, honestly. And so to sign up if you're interested, and again, this is not an ad, like I'm not being paid to say this. I'm a volunteer. Um, I do this and I want to offer one way on MLK Day to promote voting, to promote the right to vote, to promote enfranchisement, to promote engagement. And so you can go to postcardstovoters.org. I think the number is like you can text 1-800-484-ABBY, or no, it's like 1-800-ASK-ABBY. I think what it is. Anyway, just go to postcardstovoters.org. There's a bunch of ways that you can sign up. And basically, what they will ask you to do is to do a sample postcard. They'll give you like, a template, not a real campaign, and have you do it like write on a postcard so they can see that you're like following the format, because uniformity is important. So because each campaign that Postcards to Voters works with, has done the poll testing and the focus groups and whatever, to figure out what messaging makes most sense for the audience. And so they want to make sure that you like follow that. And then you basically take a picture of your sample postcard, send it back to them. And once you're an approved writer, once you're an approved volunteer, then you can just request postcards whenever you want. Um, and then you're good to go, moving forward. And I've also, you know, and I know I'm not the only volunteer. I've hosted like postcards to voters parties where like I'll have friends over and I'll pick a campaign or two and I'll make a couple of sample postcards and then have my friends also work on it so we can accomplish many more postcards at once. And I'm the quote unquote verified volunteer, and so I will review everyone's postcards, and then I will address them because Postcards to Voters provides you with the addresses and like get those mailed out. So it's a fun thing you can do with friends or family or whoever. And that reminds me that I was mentioning that Postcards to Voters does a lot of individual candidate campaigns. They do campaigns to encourage vote by mail, and then another bucket of campaigns that they work on, again, all being addressed to registered Democratic voters, is initiatives, various ballot initiatives. So, for example, in 2022, this past year, Postcards to Voters did a big get out the vote push on Amendment 2 in Kansas. If you didn't follow that, the state of Kansas, the Supreme Court of the state of Kansas held a few years ago interpreted the privacy provision of the state constitution of the state of Kansas as to include the right to bodily autonomy specific to reproductive rights. So, guaranteeing the right to an abortion under Kansas law, under Kansas state constitutional law. Well, Republican lawmakers introduced a constitutional amendment called Amendment 2 that they put on the 2022 ballot to overturn this state Supreme Court interpretation of the state constitution, and that. And so Postcards to Voters was one of the organizations that was doing get out the vote to vote no on this amendment, because the amendment would entirely get rid of the right to an abortion under Kansas state law. And fortunately, the amendment was defeated. I don't recall off the top of my head the exact vote percentage breakdown, but it was significant. I want to say it was around 58 to 59% of voters voted no, meaning that they did not want to amend the Constitution to eliminate the constitutional right to an abortion under Kansas law. So it's very successful. And obviously, Postcards to Voters was not the only organization doing get out the vote and voter education, but it was one of the efforts, and it was the way that people from various states could engage, um, and that was very exciting, and it was very successful. And so, Postcards to Voters has also been getting involved in specific initiatives like that as well. So, if it's something that could be of interest to you, check it out, postcardstovoters.org. On their website, they also have links to their Etsy page, where you can buy postcards to voters. Like, they have templates with like fun get out the vote graphics on them, and I think a portion of that like goes back to them to help pay for their operations. Um, and yeah, it's one way that we can help boost voter turnout and participation in the democratic process. And It's low barrier. And if you're buying stamps, remember that there are separate postcard stamps that are cheaper than the regular, like, forever stamps, the regular mail stamps. So that's it for today. Um, and that's just one idea for this MLK Day on how we can support the right to vote and voter engagement. So thanks for listening. Until next time.